Okay, evening everybody. How are we all doing? Tuesday the 9th, potentially a day that might live in crypto infamy, the eve before these elusive ETF spot Bitcoin, that's the wrong way around, spot Bitcoin ETF approvals. Hey there everybody, and especially hey to Jamie. It must be early because you're in Australia, so thanks for getting up to watch this. Hopefully you guys can all hear me. Yep, look at that, we can hear you. Someone even said it before I asked. Brilliant. Well, we, of course, today will talk about ETF applications. As I say, could be approved any time now, although probably unlikely until tomorrow. We'll explain why a little bit later on. We'll have a look at some of the other news that's caught my eye this week, but we'll try not to spend too much time on that. I want to get into a couple of the questions on the Avengers sheet that I missed last week because we were quite busy, and then get into some TA if we can. Now, why do I say if we can? Well, sentiment seems to be pushing price action in one direction at the moment, which may skew some of our TA, but we'll try and have a look at it as best we can. Bullish argument, bearish argument, longer time frames, shorter time frames. We'll see where we get to. I'm going to try and stick to that 90 minutes. I know we missed it last week. So let's just jump straight in and see where we get to. Okay. So as you can see from the financial chart, so I try not to draw on these, but just looking at perfectly what happened from what we drew on last week. That sort of flat top compression finally broke out after doing a little cheeky test last Avenger call, but we've seen it's actually broken out now on Bitcoin. Kind of know where we are. We'll go through the price a little bit later on. The dollar down in the bottom left. Hopefully you can see all that because my head's in the way. Actually, it's recovering from that 100 level. Back at about 102, consolidating over the last few days at the moment, but it is still in that downtrend. So just need to keep an eye on that. Looking at Ethereum, some of the other altcoins, I got to be honest, Ethereum is just, I'd say it's underperforming to be, compared to Bitcoin, and we're certainly going to have a look at Bitcoin dominance in a moment. But the only thing I will say for it, it is ranging in potentially a bullish rectangle. And so maybe we're on the cusp of that breaking out. And there's certainly arguments into why Ethereum may be the next one to pump up quite quickly. And if I forget to mention why, we'll get a bit later on. Someone just remind me in the chat, but I try not to spoil it all too much. And Casper's been consolidating as well. But unlike Bitcoin, it's had a couple of stages of consolidation over the last month, but each time it is forming lower lows. So that one potentially not doing as well. But as I say, when we go and have a look at the rest of the altcoin market, it may just be par for the course. Okay, let's just jump in. Right, first bit of news I want to touch upon. So we covered this guy, Logan Paul, a couple of times last year with his CryptoZoo NFT, I dare say scam, that he put out there because he was caught out and he became quite famous by one of the YouTubers called CoffeeZilla. And he made a promise about a year ago that he was going to pay everybody back. And lo and behold, the news finally landed this week. Fantastic. He's going to do that. But there's a massive catch with it. So I don't think anyone, certainly in our group, has got a CryptoZoo NFT. But it just, for me, it's an interesting story. I think he's one of the, definitely still one of the characters, the sort of the bad actors, if you will, in the space. I'm not saying he's as bad as some of the guys we had last year, but just in general, personal opinion, I'm not a big fan of the guy. So he's finally come out and said that he is actually going to create a fund and he will start buying back the CryptoZoo NFTs. However, he's only going to buy them back for a percentage of what you paid for it, pennies on the dollar, if you will. In fact, he's actually only going to offer 0.1 ETH for each NFT. Now, ETH's what, around about $2,500, $2,200 at the moment. So you're going to get about $220 for each CryptoZoo that you purchase. Now, you have to forgive me because I don't know how much people paid, but I do believe that this is sort of like 80-90% under the value of what people originally paid for it. But the other two things within this, you only have until the 8th of February to decide, which isn't that long a time frame. We're talking about a month. He made a promise a year ago. People might not be constantly looking at the news to understand where that is. It's not exactly a huge time frame for people to sort of sign up to this. And the other thing is you actually need to sign a waiver saying that you're not going to launch a future claim against Logan Paul, which, again, bear in mind you're only getting, let's say, 10% back. You've got 4 weeks to apply for it, and then you can't make a claim for him later on. It actually doesn't seem like he's doing this for the benefit of the CryptoZoo NFTs, but more to save his own ass in what, it's basically turned out to be a scam. Now, why do I say it's a scam? I didn't invest in it. I don't really know too much about it. But the whole thing that he said last year, you can go through this article if you will, but I don't think there's any need, was that, he is still working on CryptoZoos, the game. He will work on it. He's not going to let people down. This is absolutely happening. However, as almost an absolute afterthought whispered at the very end of his message, he did announce that actually CryptoZoo is no more. He will not be looking to pursue the game. And so, you've got to ask yourself, well, wait a second, holders are only getting 90% of their funds back. You're not continuing with the game. Where the hell's all that money gone? Now, he has got a lawsuit against him at the moment for sort of some of the co-creators of this. Without going into it, he is also countersuing them. So I'm sure it's all tied up in all of that kind of nefarious activity. But the fact of the matter is, he took money under the promise he was going to deliver something. He hasn't delivered it, and he ain't returning the full value of the money. Doesn't feel like a very fair deal. For me, Jamie's saying they were 1 ETH each, so there you go. He's getting 10% back. It's pretty shocking, really. Okay, moving on to the next one. And this is it. We've finally done it, guys. Bitcoin to the moon. That is right. As we speak right now, well, I love these articles. You think this article was actually written by someone who knows about Bitcoin, but they put the physical Bitcoin. I don't know about physical Bitcoin. I mean, I've got a physical Bitcoin here. I'm not sure that it actually counts for anything. But a physical Bitcoin, or shall we say, a Bitcoin wallet address, is currently on board a rocket heading to the moon. The intention is for that rocket to actually land on the moon, deliver payloads, not just this, I should add, in where, that Bitcoin will finally be on the moon, achieving, one of the longest running memes going, really. And so the launch happened yesterday. It was the Vulcan rocket. I think let's sit here. Vulcan rocket took off. Now, it's actually going to take about 6 weeks to get there. I think it's the middle of February. It's going to get there. I do think there's actually already issues going on with it. But there does have some NASA scientific equipment on there. It also has DNA from like former presidents, etc. And I even think there's like either audio or video clips from Star Trek characters and all this kind of stuff. So it is a bit of a promotional kind of thing, piggybacking on scientific research. However, the fact of the matter is, Bitcoin is officially heading to the moon. Now, I don't have the wallet address to hand. I'll try and find it and post it in the group. But ultimately, when it finally gets there, you can just look at that wallet address and see that there is one whole Bitcoin on the moon. Whether or not it disappears one day because someone decides to spend it, we'll have to wait and see. It'd be kind of cool if it was a piece of paper with the wallet address there, and the first person that gets to the moon in 100 years' time, when we try and colonize something like that, they can have it. But yeah, we'll see. Chris is saying the rocket won't get there. I did hear that it's not going according to plan, but we'll have to wait and see on how he gets there. I should note that this isn't Elon's Dogecoin rocket or anything like that. I think that one launches in a week or so. So yeah, completely separate. But Bitcoin to the moon, indeed. And something that we are going to talk about a little bit later on, and we talk about the fear and greed index quite a lot, but actually we have finally done it. We have finally tipped from greed to extreme greed. What do I mean by that? Well, we'll have a look in a moment, but we'll have a look as we scroll down here. So how the fear and greed, and we went over it a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to go over it again, but it's effectively just an indicator for market sentiment and where we currently sit. If you get above 75, so 76 onwards, you leave the greed category and you head into extreme greed. Now, we haven't been in extreme greed until the 11th of November 2021. Why is that important? Well, that was 2 days after 69,000. So this is a long time since we've been there. Just over 2 years. And whilst it doesn't automatically mean that we're going to dump, you know what it is. You know what they say, When there's greed in the market, sell, sell, sell. When there's blood in the waters, buy, buy, buy. Well, we're now at extreme greed. At some stage, that's going to turn on us. And that's going to be a bit of a theme about what we're going to talk about later. But yesterday's crypto fear and greed index actually ticked over. Well, I suppose it's today's technically, but it's used off yesterday's data, to 76. And, let's be fair. That is all around the hype of the Bitcoin spot ETF, which again, we're going to talk about bullish and bearish scenarios a little bit later on, but this kind of stuff does make me nervous. You know, I mean, why should a spot ETF be so amazing for Bitcoin in the short term? In the long term, absolutely, I can see the benefit for it. So, you know, we're just jumping on the bandwagon. Let's say we as in retail are jumping on the bandwagon of 3 letters that we barely understand. And yeah, we're driving this price up. It's making TA very difficult to do. But that also being said, that's not a reason necessarily to just turn into a bear and assume that a dump is happening tomorrow. Absolutely not. You know, the trend is your friend. All of these cliches need to come out at the moment. We should just wait and see. I'll go through where I'm at with this and what my thoughts are on my position a little bit later on. And yeah, here we go. Here's the chart. And if we look here, this is it on the yearly. So if you go to the Fear and Greed Index, you can have a look at this. And so this is it where we just tipped over. Now I'm going to put it on max so you can see everything. It's very difficult. You can see, obviously, we've had the cluster over the last couple of months. We've just risen above it. It's very difficult to try and tag the 11th in here. I can get the 10th and the 12th, but I can't get the 11th. But you'll just have to assure me that you just have to be assured that the 11th is a 76er. But you can kind of see, you know, even if you just, you know, basically run through where it's at, the crypto market, you know, when we're at the greed, we're kind of at the peaks, the tops, almost the blow off tops. This only dates back to the beginning of 18, so we don't have the 2017 bull run in there, but you can see sort of that June 2019 right up to the top. That's where we spiked up to 14,000 before dropping down. Then we had that run up in the winter of 2020, and then the 64,000 top in sort of, you know, early 21, and then we crash back down. Similarly, in November, we get back up to these levels and we crash back down. So it's definitely something to be aware of. You know, it's a lagging indicator certainly, and it doesn't mean that we're going to turn around tomorrow. But you should be thinking cautiously about whether or not it's the right decision to do and what mentality you're going into any trade, given the level of greed that we're at. Okay, I'm just going to make sure. Chris has put the rocket on. Get there. It's lost too much fuel. I did read that this morning. New phrase: Bitcoin to the moon and beyond. Yeah, this might just drift out into space somewhere. It'll be beyond the moon. Not enough fuel to get into the moon's orbit. Thanks, Chris. Hope the eye's getting better. Okay, let's turn our attention to the ETFs. So what's been happening over the last 7 days in the ETFs? Well, to be honest with you, you know, I don't sit down and read 100 pages of each ETF application and the amendments, but, you know, to cut a long story short, each of the applicants have been submitting their Sierra 1s, S1 amendments, following on from any comments that the SEC has raised. And there certainly has been a lot more toing and froing than I expected. I kind of thought that end of December, 29th of December, you know, was going to be the final deadline. And it seems like the SEC cancelled all Christmas leave. And they've been working pretty darn hard to review all of these. You've got to think about it. You know, there's 10 applicants, tens, if not hundreds of pages per application, probably written in a language that takes 4 or 5 attempts to read, make sure it's right there. And we're in probably our 3rd or 4th additional comments being sent out by the SEC requiring further amendments. What did we get to? Well, we thought we were pretty much over the line yesterday, because yesterday we got a final look at a lot of the fees that were being put forward for sort of like, you know, signing up to the ETFs. But late last night in UK time, probably end of the working day in America, we had further comments that were issued by the SEC, and a few people suggesting that maybe we don't have enough time to turn those around. But actually, it seemed that necessarily wasn't the case. Don't know where I've got it. Not that one, because we've actually started to see a number of the applicants submit their S1 amendments. So far we got 4 of them. Van Eyck and BlackRock were pretty quick in getting theirs in. ARK Invest and 21 Shares were also, but there are still some that are outstanding. But as I say, got like another hour and a half for the working day. But this does kind of say to me that we ain't getting an approval today. Now, the SEC could look at just these in 4 in isolation and approve those, but I think they're going to try and get as many in as they can. Whatever decision they're going to get to, they're going to look to approve, delay, whatever, collectively. Now, Interesting that ARK Invest have managed to get theirs in so quickly. And why is that interesting? Well, a lot of us have talked, me, myself included, about this January 5th to January 10th window. But actually, it's only the ARK Invests that needs to be approved by tomorrow. So when you have a look at the breakdown here, sorry, thing's buzzing, phone's buzzing. No, not this one. When you have a look, this one here, at sort of all the dates of the deadlines, you can actually see the final deadline for ARK and 21 shares is January the 10th. For the majority of the others, it's either the 14th or the 15th of January. Now, what was all the talk about? Well, the talk was on about this 5-day window in which the SEC would like to make that approval. And you can see here, expected response between the 5th and the 10th. But if there are still comments and questions, what we could see, unfortunately for ARK, is a potential delay for them, and then everyone else getting their approvals a few days later, which obviously is not the best decision for anyone looking to invest in the ARK application. But we actually do have another 6 days until the vast majority, and let's face it, iShares and BlackRock on January 15th. Don't worry about the grayscale one, Jamie. They're like a bit further behind in the application. So they're like one tranche back. So while that says final deadline, it actually isn't. Everyone's final deadline is in March, with the exception of ARK's. It's just, I don't know. It's just poorly written. Anyway, okay. Now just going back to this fees that we've started to get an insight to, and it's been an absolute fire sale because a lot of people have either we didn't know their fees this time last week, or they've now revised them, and we're seeing that there's a significant amount of applicants that are offering effectively 0% for anywhere from 3 to 6 months before the fees actually kick in, to incentivize people to use their ETF rather than anybody else's, I suppose. Now, as I say, yesterday, there's the comments, as I understand it, there may have been more, but some of them were certainly related to the fee. I don't know how, I don't know why. So I'm not sure what the focus was on there. Maybe further clarity was required by the SEC on how long the waiver would last for, and sort of what those milestones would look like. Who necessarily knows? But yeah, we can see over half of the ETF applicants are going to offer 0% initially for either 6 or 3 months, or up to $1 to $5 billion invested in the fund. And the rest of them, to be fair, except for Grayscale, we're talking 0.2, 0.4. I suppose there's almost a 1 with hashtags. But interesting nonetheless. One of the other things that's been quite clear, and people talking about, the only real winner, it appears at the moment, of the ETFs is going to be Coinbase, because they're the custodian for the vast majority of these applicants. What's also been interesting is that's not interesting. This is your deadlines. So just going back to the Grayscale ones, to everybody else's. So you got the 15th of March, a lot of them there, but it's ARK's final one tomorrow. What has been interesting, we've posted about it, talked about it in the group as well, is we've started to get some activity from Gary Gensler's Twitter account, X account, whatever you want to call it, where he's effectively talking about how the risk of a Bitcoin asset, cryptocurrency assets, they are risky investments, they are volatile, you need to proceed at your own risk, etc., which for me that feels like quite a smoking gun. Why put this out? You've been dead against cryptocurrencies. Now you're putting out that you do this at your own risk. It kind of feels like we really are getting close to approval time at the moment, and he now feels it's his job as the head of the SEC to just make sure that all Americans are aware of how risky this asset class is. If we have a look, he's done it over a couple of days. So he did a bit of a thread, some things you might consider when investing in crypto assets. You can go through and read from there. Talks about fraud, talks about the volatility. And what's he talk about here? So can't see it. Why can I not see the other ones? Okay, don't matter. But I can't see the first one. And then today he thinking about buying the latest cryptocurrency or token, and he talks again about the serious risks that are involved. And then the SEC actually reissues a crypto Fomo warning. This is the Fomo warning here. basically just saying, guys, don't worry about fear of missing out. It swings and roundabouts, influencers, how they can affect stuff, memes, and all of that kind of stuff. So again, it just feels like they're putting out a really big message at the moment that you need to trade at your own risk, and it is incredibly risky. And I feel for an agency that's not really touched on this stuff for months, to now start bringing that up kind of says to me that they feel it's their due diligence or their responsibility to at least get this message out. Why would they do that? Kind of feels it's because an approval is imminent. That paired with the fact of how hard the SEC has worked over this Christmas period to try and get this over the line, how quickly things are responding. We've now had, the CEO or the chairman of Van Eyck talking about approvals are going to happen tomorrow. We've been trading live on Thursday. He was speaking about that live on Bloomberg this afternoon. We've seen adverts coming out over the past few weeks. We've seen job advertisements coming out as well. It really feels like either they're on some sort of gag order where they can't say that it's been approved, and that'll be lifted, whenever it comes out, but they know about it, or everyone's just so sure because of the conversations they've been having with the SEC that this thing is coming. So I'm definitely in the camp now of, whilst I can't say it's 100% coming tomorrow or next week, within this window, I will be very surprised if it doesn't. I think if it doesn't, then Gary Gensler and the SEC have trolled the hell out of the crypto space. And I don't think Mr. BlackRock will be too impressed with that. So, yeah, that's where I am with it. Anyway, let's just see what this one here. Why was I reading this? Let's just read it through and I'll try and remind myself. So, Charles Gaspanero says, top security lawyers who deal with the SEC believe Gary Gensler's recent crypto warnings are prelude to the imminent spot BTC ETF approval and should be taken as a warning because that's what the SEC does. As one puts it, he, Gensler, wants to be on the record to say that BTC is speculative and a volatile asset, akin to a fiat currency with questionable backing, thinking of the Argentine peso. Wow, that's a statement and a half, but we won't digest that right now, given talking about with inflation and everything. Other digital assets are not the same as BTC in form, etc. Well, we know that Gary isn't a fan of most other altcoins because he deems them securities. And how many fiat digital assets does the world need? The world does not need or care about the Argentine peso. Governments may take regulatory steps that are bad for BTC. Well, unfortunately, that could be true, and it certainly has been in the UK. The ecosystem has been populated by lawbreakers and fraudsters. Well, so is cash, but okay, point made. And there are no more SEC impediments to approval. SEC is a disclosure-based, process-based regulator. Risks are now known and trading processes are adequate, but you are warned. Risks are super high and processes outside US cannot be policed. There we go. I mean, I think that kind of sums up why Gary and the SEC have been doing what they're doing. One interesting thing from this, and I welcome anybody's thoughts, so I don't actually know the answer myself, but I look at how the situation we have in the UK with banks freezing accounts or stopping you from even using them because you've traded crypto in the past, certainly stopping onboarding of crypto or strangling how much you can put in on a monthly basis. Assuming that the SEC does approve spot Bitcoin ETFs, and they come into force, say, from Tuesday, and suddenly now the largest companies and with the largest assets under management in the world are now trading these and managing these on behalf of, let's face it, our banks, who I'm sure are invested in the likes of BlackRock in one form or another. How they can actually say, no, you can't use crypto, it's too risky. We deem it too risky to you, so we're going to protect you by not letting you go into it. I don't know. I feel that that's a question that isn't being asked at the moment, but I think that's one that needs to be asked fairly quickly. We just need a big enough audience. Yeah, not me personally. We need a big enough amount of people to be asking that question, seeing whether or not it's coming out. But anyway, it is what it is with that. I mean, is there anyone in the chat at the moment that doesn't think we're going to get an ETF approved, let's say tomorrow, but within this window? Because, yeah, I think the writing does seem to be on the wall. I know there's a few in the group that are kind of on the shelf. And for example, Simon potentially doesn't think it's going to happen. But there just seems to be, for me, too much effort that's gone in for this not to have happened. For this not to happen, should I say. You wait. I've not looked at the price of Bitcoin. It might have happened now. That's a Mo's in the no camp. Okay. Interesting. I mean, can you imagine if it is a no? Can you imagine what the price is going to be on Thursday if it's a no? Tell you, all that hope is just, it's going to have just absolutely collapsed. I think Gens is trolling. Yeah, it could well be. You know, that's for me, where we are with the price, it's back so much at the moment on where we are with the ETF. For that to be taken away from us. Okay, Mr. Tacos, he's expecting it being delayed, but being approved in March. I mean, I must admit, when I saw those last minute additional comments come out last night, I thought, oh, it's going to be, and I still kind of wonder. Let's say that no more of the 10, only 3 of them actually get these additional comments in. Do they then go, actually, we are going to delay? Because do they have the authority almost to go, you guys have got it right, but we want to do this as a wanna, so we're going to delay it, so everybody has a fair crack of it coming in? You're right, I could see that argument. Yeah. Chris has put the events for the last few days and make it more likely than a no. I thought it would be a week ago. Yeah, okay. Right, well, we'll just wait and see. I've kind of like cleared my calendar tomorrow. Well, from the US sort of working hours time, because I just feel like it could come at any moment, and that just being the decision, not the approval. And so I just want to be there. I'll go into where I am with this in terms of my crypto allocation in a little bit. Right, we'll leave the news there. Okay, sorry. And Stackos has put, there's way too much fanfare to really expect it to happen, in my opinion. Retail's never on the ball yet with market timings, especially for something as major as this. Has to crack 48.25 before the announcement if it's going to be a no. That's what Jamie's put. It's an interesting level you've mentioned there, because it's a level I'm going to talk about later. That's nothing to do with the ETFs. And as to what you said, Mr. Tacos, absolutely. When has retail ever been on time? When has retail ever been right? And, you know, I'm one that prescribes to market makers. Why is it in their interest to allow the price to now continue to go up if everyone thinks it's going up? And when you have a look a little bit later on about the longs and the shorts and the delta there, it is long heavy. So, yeah, it's about 14 billion, I think, on last counting. But we'll have a look. Anyway, moving on, I just want to quickly cover the 2 questions that I missed last week, and I will cover these quickly. Richard, but do you share similar thoughts regarding Sam's exit plans on the last trading pubs? This is the trading pub he did before Christmas, where he talked about exits, and he kind of gave 2 scenarios, whether you look at it from a market, from a profit point of view or a timing point of view. And I think, without rehashing what Simon went through, all I'd say is I've talked about what I'm doing in terms of profit quite a lot. In the last cuddle, I actually spoke about it. You can find that video if you go to Simon's account. It's this one here. It's about 38 minutes into me talking. What's he called it? That's a good question. How to prepare for and capitalize on bull markets properly. So if you find that video, it came out 3 weeks ago. I talk about the whole bull market, but I talk at the end about my profits. And it is very much, I've broken it in 2. I've got levels in mind that I want to achieve and reasons why I want to achieve those. And then I'm going to take some off the table at set levels. I may not take it all the way back to the bank. I may just look to just hold on to it in stables so I can buy other things that I'm interested in, turn it into Bitcoin, whatever it's going to be. And then, you know, when it gets to a certain point, I'm just going to let the rest run, knowing I've got some in my back pocket. I feel happy, accepting the fact I'm unlikely to hit the market top, but I am going to try and get out on a rough time of where we are. But also, for those of you in Discord, etc., I post this. I've got this, and this is one to hold me accountable, but also to give me an idea. So all of these charts are posted in Discord somewhere, but I got like a profit taking set of charts, and it's very similar to this. This is my polka dot one. And I got levels that I'm interested in. So I've got to take profit 1, I'm going to take 20% off, because by then it will have 5x from my initial investment. 20% of the 5x, I can pretty much take out my entire initial investment, and I still have 80% to run. Got a couple of other levels, and then we go. But you can see, even when I get to the top, there's a let it run. I'm just going to let it run. We don't know where it's going to get to, and so I'll be happy if I've got 30-40% in my back pocket, sort of 60% to play with from all-time highs. Very happy with that. You can kind of see Link. I've done similar. Matic. I will say I'm actually thinking about dumping Matic, to be honest. There's other ones I'm interested in. I think it'll do well. This isn't because I don't like it. I just, think I might dump Matic and move into something else. But at the moment, I've got these here. Near, Quant, Rose. You get the point. They're all posted in Discord. I think they're in the Avenger chat and they're pinned. So you can find them, have a look at them, tear them to pieces. If it ever hits them, you can call me out and say, have I done it? And hopefully I'll say yes. So yeah, so that's where I am with that one. And then John's asked me to talk a bit about trading volumes, please, Harry. It is a question. That's good to know. Okay, so trading volumes. Trading volumes is not an indicator I particularly use a lot, but I'm assuming when you talk about it, you're talking about this. Ignore this bottom one for the moment. Matter of fact, let's just close that down. That's not. So when you open up a new trading view chart, you normally have one indicator on, and it's volume. And it's these red and green bars, which are scrolling across the bottom, which, at first glance is kind of difficult to understand because there's no scale that represents what it's talking about here. But in the simplest possible terms, John, the volume indicator is just a bar representing the number of transactions of this particular crypto or this particular stock or commodity, it doesn't matter, over a given time period. So although I can't give you an exact figure of this one, we can see that this is a weekly chart we're on at the moment, and there was a lot this week. That ties in because a lot of people were selling because we were in the fall. Now, what's the difference between the red and the green? The red and the green is literally, there's just a threshold. Has it been more than 50% of them have been buys or more than 50% of them been sells? So, that's all it is. And it could have just ticked over by one, and it will go red. So that can be a little bit misinformation. I don't know what word I'm trying to use there. But how can you use it? I think in general, what we can kind of see is if they're green and they're high, it generally means that it's bullish. And we see those in bull runs. So we can kind of see, in the bear markets, volume falls away. They are still red and green, even in bull markets, they're red and green. It's generally more of a 50-50 split. But when we get into that bull market, what you start to see is the volume pick up and the majority of the candles end up being green because people are overall buying, driving the price up. At the start of a bear market is the exact opposite. What we see is almost panic selling and a lot of people selling off whatever asset you're particularly looking at. So again, the volume can be high, it doesn't necessarily have to be, but the majority of the candles themselves are red. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really ever look at it. Why don't I look at it? I just don't like the data. Let me give you an example. So I'm on the index, the Bitcoin index chart. Okay, if I go on to the Binance chart, look at the difference there. So we're talking about May 22 to March 23. Huge amount of activity in a lull of the market. Much bigger activity than what we saw in the bull market. Because remember, these are specific to whichever chart you're looking at. So if I go to a Bitstamp one, it's flat because it's a bear market. If I go to a Kraken one, it's flat because it's a bear market. If I go to the index, it's flat because it's a bear market. Yet for some reason, Binance is massively pumped up. Now, I'm not necessarily too sure why that is or what's caused that. I can't solely attribute it to, the downfall of FTX and Binance taking up a much bigger market share because that only happened in that week. What about this week beforehand or these weeks beforehand? So I tend not, if I'm honest, to necessarily use it. If I'm interested in, its volume dropping off, then yeah, I might be interested. And when you get on the lower time frames, the 4 hours and below, and you start to see that volumes dropping off or prices going up, it usually means there's a big move coming. Whether that's up or down depends on some of the TA. But for me, it's just not an indicator that I necessarily use. Now, I did hide one indicator. One that I have used in the past, you may have seen my charts, is the PVSRA, which effectively is a volume indicator. I'm just going to make this, let's get rid of this one. And let's make this one a bit bigger. This has the vector candle information in, so you know the vector candles we talk about. So we've got the colors there, we've got the red, the greens. But actually with this, we also have the numbers. So I actually can get an idea of how much we were talking about. So this big green candle, there was apparently 3.7 million Bitcoin transactions that week, mainly positive. So, and actually because it's a vector candle, we kind of actually know that it's over 200% greater than the last 10 candles. So yeah. Anyway, I hope that helps. It probably won't. What I will say, I've got it here only open so I can post it in there for you. You know, Investopedia, if there's anything you don't know the answer to necessarily, then, you know, jump on here and have a look. And this kind of gives you, now obviously it's based on stocks, but just replace stock or security with crypto, and you're generally going to get there and give you a better explanation, perhaps, than what I did. The only other thing, because I saw this mentioned, I totally forgot about it, is don't be afraid to check out the RT crypto glossary. Why did I say that? Because I made it. And that doesn't mean it's right, I should add. But even I forgot it was there. And, you know, if any of you are looking for like a very quick understanding of what things are, and, you know, there's only a couple of hundred definitions on here. So I definitely haven't captured everything, and I'll try and update a little bit more. But you may find some things that you're looking at. I think someone asked about Kobo in the chat. There's a very quick explanation of what Kobo is there. Certainly just to get you going before something else. So that's definitely worth it. You can find it on the website. Okay. Where are we? I think that's that. Let's have a look. Anything in chat before I move on? Hi, Harry. Can you go over the bear and bull case for Casper? I'll have a look at that. Jamie, oh no, I need to do this. I take it that's in reference to profit taking. I mentioned in that video, and I stress it. You know, I accept that those profit levels may change, the entire strategy may change, but at least at the moment I've got something to go on. And what's interesting for me, is Link, because in Link's moves up, although I was out at Link at the moment, it was pretty close to me actually having to take one of my levels. It would have been a fantastic level to take. It didn't quite get there. I'm glad it didn't, because I wasn't actually in Link at the time, because I made a silly trade. You've all heard me talk about that one. But yeah, you know, I would have taken some. I thought it felt like that would have been a key level. Whether or not I moved that into BTC or something else, we're not so sure. Similarly, you know, look at NEAR, almost got to that take profit level, and it's turned around. That would have been, there was no fib and there was no previous price action that kind of suggested to me that 4.6 was going to be a turnaround point. So no, I wouldn't have taken it. But you can see why, had it have got to these levels, and I still think we may see reactions when we get to these levels, whether I'd move it into BTC or I take it into cash, we get that pullback, I can then just buy some more, or buy back the original, pocket the difference, and move that into something else. That's the whole point of why I've got it there. But ultimately for me, just to rehash, you know, I kind of rely on cryptocurrency and making money from cryptocurrency as, you know, one of my primary sources of funds. So I also try, and I can't just sit for 2 years hoping to cash out at the end. That's just not a success story for me. And I kind of did that at the end of last year, in the last bull run. I got out of, you know, alive. I did well, but I could have done so much better if I wasn't afraid to take profit. And this time, rightly or wrongly, whether you think I'm too risk averse or whatever, I just want to be able to actually take some money from this, still leave life-changing money on the table, life-changing amount of assets on the table to do something, but actually to have some money in the background. So that's why I'm doing those. Right. Let's start talking about Bitcoin. I'm not that Bitcoin. Let's start talking about Bitcoin. This is a chart we've covered a couple of times. And so I watch a lot of YouTube, a lot of influence on YouTube, and you know, one that I have to say from a macro point of view, I've always found very useful. It's Crypto Crew University, and this chart and this setup was one of the reasons why I felt comfortable back in December 2022 getting back in. We talked about it in both January and either April or May 2022, and I've just put on the bottom here because some of you are going to ask me how these work. It's absolutely fine. I'm going to go through them. But if you want it, if you want it from the horse's mouth, then just copy this YouTube link here and you can watch it. It's a video from middle of April last year. It kind of explains these two indicators down here. Now, why have I got it up? Why start here? Well, as we talked about this last year, there's certain crosses of these lines potentially signal either bullish or bearish scenarios, and it's fair to say that what we're seeing at the moment is certainly on the cusp of a bullish breakout, and I want to go through those because it's quite important. Now, this is on the monthly at the moment. Obviously, if we change the time frames, you can see that the lines change to represent those as well. So absolutely fine to do it on the weekly. I think if you get a bit lower than the weekly, then it may not work as well, but we're going to stick on the monthly for the moment. So we've got the rank correlation indicator, which is these three lines here. And without going through exactly how it runs, it's basically just a representation of price and time, to give us a kind of a market sentiment over a given period. And really what we're interested in is how this red line interacts with the green line, okay? And generally what we find, in the past, and we can only go on a few data points, especially on the monthly chart, is when the red line crosses over the green line, it usually signifies a bullish period. And the length that it stays over the green line obviously dictates how long it's going to be bullish for. So this happened in sort of January or December 2015. It crossed over and it pretty much stayed above the green line right until just after the blow off top in December 17, which led to this big rally up. Then we sort of break back down, come down to the bottom of the channel representing the bear market. And then we had it rise back up again with the mid-cycle rally that we had in May and June of 2019. It just breached the green line and then it came back down. So again, marking sort of that rally. And then we had it again, sort of August 20. We had it stay above that until around about April, May 21, which represents this climb here. Well, why do I mention it now? Well, we've actually been flirting with it a couple of times already, but we have rebroken it. December it was on the line, but we crossed into this month. I appreciate this month's candle. Still has 20 odd days to go, but we've now broken above it. And that generally has suggested that if we can keep above that line, we are going to be remaining in a bullish scenario. And that's the reality of where we are. From a much wider, further step back view, macro view of the markets, as long as we stay over that based on past performance, then we are still going to be in a bullish market. And so really the next battleground for us to look at is how this red line, I'm going to just inflate. Oh, so what I've done is I've deleted that. Let's just blow this one up so you can see it a bit better. How this red line currently at the moment interacts when it re-engages, or if it re-engages with this green line, because effectively until it crosses back below it, we've got bullish momentum back in the market. And of course we've got bullish momentum in the market because all the talk at the moment has been on the ETFs. Price action's been rising. Perfect storm, really. Oops, what have I done there? Amateur hour. There we go. And then we've got this other indicator down here. And what we're looking for down here, and I've kind of made some little notes. So again, feel free to watch the video. I highly recommend you actually watch the video itself. It's going to go into better detail explaining it than I possibly do. But what we're looking for here is if the red crosses the green line, and we'll have a look back at previous examples, it generally indicates the start of a bull run. When the red crosses the orange line, a previous high will be beaten, not necessarily the all-time high, but a previous high. And then when it crosses above the blue line, that's when we get, or the blue upper channel, because it's like a Bollinger Band, if you will, this. That starts the parabolic run. And then when it crosses back below the blue, we're generally going into some form of a bear market. Well, let's try and take it back. So what did we say? We said the green, so the red crosses the green. Okay, so again, September 2015, we had the red cross the green. Okay, so we start in the bull run. Cross the green until it breaks out, we're fine. Crosses the orange, but when does it properly cross the orange? Properly crosses the orange. I mean, it's still on it that month, isn't it? But I suppose technically it doesn't dip below. Whether you want to call it February or April, it's up to you. but we're starting to take out these highs. And that's what we're talking about. It's not all-time highs, but starting to take out the highs, the previous highs. And that has. Then we cross into the blue, we get on this run. Now, it flirts with the blue, I'll give you that, but it kind of stays above, either on or above it this whole time, all the way up. And then we lose it this month here. It breaks, well, I suppose it is the January 18, it formally breaks below it. And then we're in the bear market. Okay. How about we have a look at this again? So what we're looking for, red line crossing the green. So it has the bear market consolidation. Red line crosses the green. Perfect. Rises up to the orange, but it's rejected. Didn't quite take out that high there. We were on level with it. I appreciate it's wicks, but I deal with bodies. You can look at this any other way you want. I'm looking at the bodies. We see it comes back down and it consolidates under here. So we finally break the green here, and then we break the orange. We now look, we're just ever so slightly above it, and then off we go to the races. We're back in, under we go. And it's charts like this, and I talked about it last week, I talked about it many times before, that a lot of charts indicate that this April 21 was the top of the market. I know that sounds silly because we went from 64 to 69, but a lot of the indicators kind of suggest that this was a blow off top that happened to just go higher. And this is another example of that. It's all kind of tying in with, we just got exuberant here, and off it went. So then we've had that bear market consolidation, and bang, we had the cross here in December. And this is when we started buying back in. This is when we started getting our Bitcoin, and we started getting our altcoins. And, fair play to Crypto Crew University. I watched this video, convinced me that that's the right move to do. And I talked about it with you guys in the January of 23. That's what I was doing. And yeah, we just built ourselves back in. So we've crossed over. Then we've crossed the orange line in October. We had October month, and look, took out all of these highs here. So, yeah. And now we're talking about, well, where are we at? Well, we're at a very important part, because at the moment, we're right on that level of the blue. What does the blue mean again? We crossed the upper blue, it's parabolic runtime. And that's potentially where we're at. Now, we actually kind of need this candle to close, and then likely February to also confirm it for us. But so far, this move has taken us all the way to that level there. Now, it's likely that this blue is upticking as well, so the February is going to come up. So it will still need a strong performance in February, but we could be seeing one of two things happen. Great, politician answer there. We're either going to bust through that. We've got the confirmation on the rank correlation indicator as well that we've got some bullish momentum, and we're still going up, and we're a parabolic run. Now, I don't want that to happen, because that kind of throws, I would assume that we're going to have some big correction as well, and that could throw the 4-year cycle into a bit of a tailspin, which we've talked about whether or not is the 4-year cycle speeding up only a couple of weeks ago. And maybe it is. Or what we're actually going to see is we're going to see some form of correction. We're going to come back down. But at the moment, the red is slightly above the blue. So if things were to close like this, and then we manage to hold the blue as support, you could argue that this is further evidence that we've got that bullish scenario. Jamie's saying he loves the TDIG indicator. It's a mouthful. At the moment, my mind has completely gone blank as to what it actually stands for. But it's just one of those talking moments. It will come back to me in the middle of another topic, and I'll shout it out. Yeah, I think it's quite a powerful tool. Again, you can use it on the weekly. I'm just showing you on the monthly. And full credit to Crypto Crew University. Go and give them a volatile. I think they've got some really good macro insight into Bitcoin. It's a different kind of view of stuff, but I think it's well worth having a look at. Okay, let's have a look at some other bullish sentiment. We've been looking at this for what feels like months now, certainly since October. And this is the RSI and the stochastic RSI. And yet we had the uptick, and we started to see that movement down. But what have we seen over the past couple of weeks now? We're actually starting to see that it's building. It's consolidating above support at this level here, and it's starting to build back up. So both the RSI and the stochastic RSI, because the blue and the orange are having a little flirt and maybe a potential cross back over, suggesting that there is still upward momentum still within the chart. I don't necessarily need these lines. I'm not sure why they're on there. And so actually, again, buoyed by potentially the ETF approvals, what we're seeing is sentiment is still climbing. Now, it's never good to be in overbought for too long, but we've seen previously that we can stay in overbought and still start to climb the price. So fact of the matter is the RSI has turned around on the weekly, and the stochastic RSI is also there. So potentially there's bullish momentum to take that price going forward, certainly for Bitcoin. So I'm just catching a view on some of the altcoins are really bleeding out at the moment, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. But then let's have a look at it from, a daily point of view. What's the bullish eye? So these are the lines that I drew on, or were on the first chart we looked at. And we can quite clearly see, I think it's a fairly decent trend line. Support and resistance there. Okay, you could argue it broke it a little bit there, but generally you can kind of get where this is. And I think you can see an incredible amount of interactions within it. So this compression has been forming, and typically what we think, although probably actually draw it there. Do you know I like to stick with bodies rather than wicks? What we're seeing is a flat top compression in a bull market is likely going to lead to price bursting upwards rather than downwards. And that's exactly what happened. And that yesterday we saw that huge move back up. We've seen a pretty tasty low test today, but it has been bought back up. So again, potentially showing further room to go. So we've flushed out some degen longs who've been, building that position. It's been bought back up now, and we potentially have momentum to rise to the upside. This was almost a classic. It broke within the last 20% of the apex. It's respected the 10, the 20 for so long now. We've still not had that retest of the 50. That's a bearish sign for me, but we do think it's going to happen at some stage. But at the moment, by tomorrow, this thing's going to be at almost 42,000. So we last touched it when it was down at 27,000. It just shows you how strong this move has been over the last few months. But yeah, there's no reason looking at this chart here to think that we're suddenly going to have a huge correction back down. Okay, we might test this support here. Had enough touch points there. It seemed only logical to come back down with the 10 and the 20 and have some sort of interaction around about 44. But, as long as it holds that there, I think we still got it. Thank you, Traders Dynamic Index. Thank you, Jamie. Glad you woke up for this call. You've helped me out there. So yeah, I can see the argument absolutely for the bull case. If we have a look now at potentially some bear scenarios, and again, Harry, you've got the RSI up with a Bitcoin chart. What's going on here? But there's something that's happening here, and it's on a lot of time frames that we need to bear in mind. And that's a divergence, and it's a bearish divergence. And what do I mean by that? I mean that price is moving in one direction and another indicator is moving in the opposite direction. And this is a bearish one, which means that indicator is going down. So let's just draw this out. So I'm looking at the RSI. What's the RSI? Indicates strength, overbought, oversold, where momentum currently is. So what have we got here? So if we go back to October the 24th, we had a high of 87. Okay, and we had the price 33,000. Next one, we had it 84. We had a price here of 34.5. You can't see that very well, but it's there. And we had another one down here at 84 again, but a little bit lower. Let me get this right. And we had that price there. And we had this one here at 81. Is this one here. I don't know where you want to take, but let's just take it from today's. So we've had it down at 67. We've had that price there. So what this is saying, for those of you that aren't, have never come across a bearish divergence before, is the market is, momentum is moving down. The RSI is moving down. Typically, what would happen in a correlated sense would be that would be representing that price is moving down, or at least stagnating. But what we're actually seeing here is prices exploding. Price is continuing to rise whilst the RSI is cooling off. That is a bearish divergence. Now, why is that important? Well, bearish divergence, although you can't time when they're going to happen, generally they call for a correction. We don't know when that correction is being, because all we could see is we could see this and this and this, and we could see price going up and up and up. But at some stage, it will correct. And I suppose the longer it takes, the deeper the correction. And as a prime example of this, the one was in front of all of our eyes in 2021, and none of us bothered to look at it. We go back to the bull run. in 2021. The bull run, the one that happened in December. So again, RSI around about 89, price was there. Next one, around about 80, price was here. Next one, 72, price went here. Next one, 68, price went here. And then we had the correction, and we went from 64 down to 47, dead cat bounce, and away we went. Big correction. And you know, it's as clear, you know, as that really. And that to me is something, that's obviously the one in 2021, is something that we need to keep an eye on. There is a bearish divergence happening at the moment. Now, again, it's not really tradable in the sense of we know when it's going to happen. Kind of know at some stage it will happen. Now, when is this invalidated? This will be invalidated if this moves up and takes out this one here. Takes out that one there, then it's invalidated. I mean, you could then just go on a longer time frame, you know, 2 or 3 day, and just make the touch points a little bit later. But actually, oh no. It's just, I'm gonna have to clear all these. Hopefully, take a snapshot on your head of those, because it's gonna get far too messy if I don't clear these. But the thing is, it's not just showing on the daily. You've actually even got it on the 4 hour. Oops. So you go back to October on the 4 hour, 90. Then you got your December's, and even now, even with these pumps, it's showing on the 4 hour, it's showing on the 8 hour, showing on the 12 hour, showing on the daily. I don't think it shows on the 2 day, interestingly. But it does show, I mean, on the 3 day, kind of is showing, but you know, we're only just starting to form these points. 5 day in the week is going to be a similar scenario where we're just starting to form these points. But you know, those other charts, it's shown on quite a lot of them, and the fact that it is showing on so many just screams to me at some stage this is going to play out. So we just need to be mindful of that. So as I say, we've got this, you know, we've got the momentum and the push and the hype behind the ETFs. So be careful how you trade if you want to trade that. We've also got this bearish divergence. I can't give you a timescale for it. So you just got to go into any trade, whether it be spot or leverage, with that in mind and knowing what your exit criteria is going to be, whichever side of the trade you're going to take. All right, let's have a look at something else. So what have I got drawn up here? Let's zoom this out. This Jamie, this goes back to your 48k level. So what I've drawn here is I've drawn a Fibonacci, but most of the time you see my fibs. I've got a lot more ticked. I've just unticked a few. And what we're doing is we're taking it from the top down to the bottom of each of the bull markets. And there's an interesting pattern that replays itself. We'll start with the first one here. So top of the bull market, down to the bottom. What we have, if your price flirts in and around the 382, when it does, it then moves up to the 786, has a rejection, you know, a last gasp, you know, a rejection and a drop in the price, which actually presents itself as the last buying opportunity before the parabolic run. We have that rejection, it comes back down. Again, taking it from the bull market down to here. The reason it doesn't line up exactly is I did it on the weekly and then moved it to the monthly so you can see, but principle's the same, doesn't change the fib levels. Take it down to the bottom, moves up, comes back down with the 382, moves up again, hits the 786, has that pullback, flies back up. Where are we at the moment? This bull run, come down, flirted with the 382. We are just about at the 786, which is 48,000. Depends how you want to draw it. Anywhere from 48,000 to 48,800. Okay, so we are pretty darn close to actually hitting this. And if this is to go with anything, what we will then see is a pullback of some sort. But that pullback is important because it is the last opportunity we'll have to buy before we start seeing the parabolic run. And I mean buy at a decent level. Of course, there's going to be opportunities for pullbacks running through there. And so how much had it dropped previously? Well, this one dropped 40%. This one dropped 20%. Okay, not great. So let's just say the average is 30%. 30% from the top. 30% down to there. What's that? 33,000. 33,000, kind of an important level because we talked about that 31 to 35,000 being an element to retest. So again, I don't know when this may happen, although looking at the time frames, we've kind of had a look at sort of like 4 or 5 candles leading up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles leading up there. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles here. Potentially this month or next month is going to be the candle that turns it back around. So I know what people are talking about with ETFs, and we're going to see 100k Bitcoin in the next few weeks. Ignoring this, I don't think we're going to see that, but we may actually. What we see is the fact that the ETFs have been priced in already. We've been talking about ETFs since October, and that's when the price rise has happened. We've been talking positively that January is going to be the ETF approval date, and that's when price is going to happen. And so actually, maybe we don't get to see that monumental rise up. What we actually get to see is it completes up to, let's say, 50,000 before it turns back around, and it comes back down, and we see that retest. We see that cooling off potentially then of this chart. This comes back down for a little rejection. So we don't start about that parabolic run too soon, and then we start to build it back up again. Could well be the case. So that that's one for me. Absolutely keeping my mind on that one. And thanks to Mr. Tacos, who sent me some stuff earlier on today. But if you look at the order books, why is this? There we go. I'll do it on the weekly. If you look at the order books, there are huge sell walls on Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, Bitfinex, BitMEX, 48 and 50,000. And I'm talking huge sell walls, notable ones that build up. And I stopped going onto Trading Light. I don't pay for it anymore, but thankfully he took some screenshots for me, so I appreciate that. And you can see where these are building up. There are some in between as well, 49 and 49.2, but some big levels on this one. And then similarly, I didn't take them all, but you get the point, building up at 50 and 48,000. And so people seem to be ready actually to sell some Bitcoin when we get to those two levels. Who is ready? I don't know. But if you're an order book trader, that certainly should be on your radar. That again kind of ties in with when we make that move up, we hit that 782, pull back down. The bearish divergence, recorrects, etc. And if we look at high block itself, we zoom in a little bit. We can kind of see there is a little bit of a level around about 48,000, and we see another one around about 42. But there's not much up. Everyone is long at the moment. No one's really too worried about that, and that worries me because that's what the market makers want, isn't it? That's what we've talked about for the last year with market maker theory. Is they're going to do something, but the whole way that these prices moved up, they've been placing their positions to capitalize on bringing that price back down. So the fact that the order books are stacking some sales, the fact that the liquidity points are not looking great. I mean, if we go on to high block and have a look at the heat maps here, people are placing longs. Longs they've been placing at, what's that? 47,160. They place it right at the top. People are placing those longs. Absolutely happy to do it. Now, okay, ETF may get approved, and we may see this climb. It might be a good positional position, if that makes sense. But market makers already had a bit of fun taking some of those out with that price that dipped back down and immediately was bought back up. It's a space of about 15 minutes. That volatility we expect to see, and I expect to see that on an approval as well. People are buying it, but here's the delta. Look at it. Now, it used to be that's 313. What is 313 times 47,000? 313,000 times 47,000 is, got to my phone sideways, is nearly 15 billion. We kind of say anywhere from 10 to 20. That's when market makers want to go to play. So there's an opportunity here for the market makers. Everyone's long. Everyone's happy with where the ETFs are going. What if we get the approval, but we don't get the price moving the way it is? So that kind of leaves it with where am I? And I'll just move on to this chart while we're doing it. So this is just that chart that I update every week. So this is just a representation of high block and where we see things. So we've got the 48.2 and Jamie, that's sort of the top of the level you were talking about, where you think it's going to go, and I think absolutely we can see it there. Maybe we do see a spike to 52. Maybe it absolutely flies up there first before coming back down. We wick a little bit beyond it. because of the hype around the ETF. There isn't much up there. You know, the size of these compared to the size down here. And then we look at some of those levels we talked about, 33,000 for that correction, right smack in the middle of this one, taking out this. We still got to contend with this trend line, still got to contend with the 50 EMA. I'm not saying it's an easy journey back down here. Potentially there's a correction there. So what am I doing and where am I at? I'll be honest, I'm a bit in paralysis. I can see an argument for both sides. And so the best thing I can do right now is do nothing. I'm 85% in the market. I've been buying Bitcoin since November 22. I'm happy with where that sits. I'm happy with my alts, with the exception of Matic, which is in the red. Most of my alts are green and well in the green. And so, hey, if ETFs approve and Bitcoin goes flying up, brilliant. You know, Bitcoin value goes up even higher. The Bitcoin pairs dive, and then I will just have an opportunity to sell my Bitcoin into some of the other altcoins that I like at a much lower price, and I'll wait for the next alt season. If, however, it absolutely collapses, well, I got two options. I can either wait for confirmation for a collapse. I don't think it'll be a short-term thing. I don't think it will just spike down to 33,000, be bought up in 15 minutes. If we're going to break that trend line, we're going to break this trend line. If we're going to break this EMA, I think we're going to gradually head down leading into the halving, which we've not even talked about yet. So that's where I'd be looking at things. But you know, once we've had those confirmations, maybe I do have a look at taking a sell. Now, some of you may think, well, okay, Harry, I kind of like what you're saying, and you know, maybe you take an allocation of your Bitcoin or your altcoins. The altcoins probably not so well because they are struggling at the moment, and you try and hit a couple of sell walls, you know, aligning with those order books, and then you ride the wave back down. You just buy a bit more BTC at a lower price, and you got bang for your buck. And maybe there's an argument that I necessarily need, you know, I could do that with some of it, but because I can see both sides, I just feel the best thing for me to do then is be a bit boring and sit on my hand, because I've kind of got a win-win situation. If we drop down, I've still got cash to put into the market, and I also can take advantage of BTC dominance buying into altcoins. And if it goes up, well, hey, it goes up and we're all laughing. Right, let's have a look at where we are. There you go. Jamie just put, are you, oh no, sorry, Bijan's put, can printed USDT be used for leverage trading as well as spot purchases? I actually don't know the answer to that. I assume so. Ultimately, you know, Tether, if that's what you're talking about. I didn't talk about Tether, and I should do. Let me get the Tether chart up in a moment. That's a bullish case. You know, Tether is a pair which then people can buy, and then they can use that buy to go over to their leverage trading platform of choice and start to do it. So yeah, absolutely. Buy the rumor, sell the news. Yeah, again, you know, paralysis. Everyone's kind of talking about that. So again, now the market maker's going to double bluffers on that one. But typically, it normally is buy the rumor, sell the news. And we've been talking about this ETF positively for 3 months now. So buying Bitcoin now on the cusp of an ETF approval actually feels like the wrong thing to do. Should have been buying it back in October when we were, you know, buying the rumor. Are you selling anything around the 48 to 50k mark? So I kind of just explained. I don't know. The honest answer is I don't know. Paralyzed. I'm going to sit in front of the charts tomorrow and I'll make a decision. My Bitcoin's on the Trezor. It's kind of slow to move. Maybe I move it back to an exchange just in case I do want to sell some. And I want to get it sold quickly. So maybe that's an option for me. But at the moment, I haven't done any. I haven't set any sales. I've got some buys in mind for other altcoins that I'm interested in. Buy list here. Some of the other ones, and I've got some good levels that I want to get in on. It's probably a chat for another day once ETF's out of the way. Bijan's put, depends on the appetite of the US customer. Canada purchased 3 billion worth of BTC through. Australia purchased only 15 mil. Quite a difference with two of the richest economies on earth. Yeah, I think, you know, the American economy is where it's going to be, and you know, the likes of BlackRock, et al. Looking to get in it. I imagine they've done their market research that people are interested in this. I mean, you just have to look at the memes of like the returns over the last 10 years between stock market, gold, and Bitcoin. These investors, they want to get in on that. You know, even if they're slightly late to the party, they want to get in on that. And I think we're in a shift at the moment. You know, sort of where they talk about it's kind of like an S curve, isn't it? And you got like early adopters, late adopters, skeptics, and all of that. I think we're crossing that threshold now, we were the early adopters, but once this goes mainstream, it's legitimized by ETFs. I think we're moving into that next stage now where it's effectively, it's available to everybody, whether you're a cynic to it or not. And so, yeah, we might be starting to get we haven't talked about this last major bull run. Maybe it absolutely is. Maybe this is the last time we're going to see some of the volatility, certainly in Bitcoin. Well, not volatility, but the moves that we make, the sort of the 10x's that we make. Depends on the appetite. If you said that, look at the heat map. Liquidity mid 30k, another good sign of the correction. So heat map. Yep, exactly. Just down there. Of the top 20 richest. Okay, you're just correcting economies, but good take a look at market maker rise theory on BTC. Curious if you think we're in an R2 or an R3. Sorry if you already missed it. Okay, I'll have a look at that in a second. Do Fox News really want this, or are they just commenting on it just to piss CNN on? Okay, good question. I mean, I'm sure it's upset a few. Elizabeth Warren must be ringing Gary Gensler every day, going, "How dare you let this happen?" He might finally have no more excuses up his sleeve. It'd be interesting to see. We always talk about politicians and how good they are at the stock markets, but we never understand why. Well, with blockchain technology and KYC and we understanding who they are, they'll have to go for the proper methods. Maybe we will be able to see some suspect activity in the future if they do dare try and trade this stuff. Futures Bitcoin ETF approval there, wasn't it too? Yeah, I didn't talk about it last week, and I'm not going to talk about it, but just have a look at back in 2003 and 2004 for the gold ETFs. One was in Australia, one was in the US. Everyone thought the gold ETFs were going to just absolutely cause a skyrocket price. But after both of those happened in 2003, 2004, there was a dump in the price of gold, almost immediately afterwards. And that was over an ETF that everyone thought was going to be a game changer. And this will be, this is potentially exactly the same. I was supposed to do it last week. I did the charts. I forgot to talk about it. Interesting. Okay, right. So yeah, let's just have a look at that one final bullish thing. I think the easiest thing to do is to look at USDT market cap. I mean, this is the market cap today. Went from 93 to 94. But if we look at in the last month, even this year alone, we were at 91. We're now at 94. In the last month, we were down at 90. So we had 4 billion in the last 4 weeks. And why do I mention this? Well, every time Tether seemed to produce more money, it generally coincides with a Bitcoin pump. And they have, as you say, the last 4 days, we've seen $4 billion extra printed. And is that going to be spent somewhere? Is that going to be used to move the price up? Could well be. So definitely one for the bullish side. Let's move that into the bullish side of the argument there. A good spot for that one there. Right, you want to have a look. So I think that's kind of covered it. I'm going to go over some TA just because some of you have asked for some, but I think for me, I'm going to focus mainly on Bitcoin dominance, maybe Bitcoin pairs. We'll have a look at some of the altcoins individually, but just given where we are with the ETF, I kind of feel like TA on the very short term, 1 hour, 4 hours, kind of out the window right now because opium's driving the market right now. And at a moment's notice tomorrow, we're going to get one of 3 words: approved, delayed, denied. And that's going to have huge repercussions on both altcoins and Bitcoin, regardless of what current TA is suggesting. So yeah, I think it's difficult. I'd like, next week we'll get back to it proper, but I think right now we might be struggling. So let's have a look at market maker. Get on the daily. The question was, do you think we're in a rise 1 or rise 2? I mean, great question. We haven't looked at this for a while. So the original thinking for 6 months of last year, rise 1, rise 2, rise 3. We were going to have some sort of M formation, and down we went. That didn't happen. So we messed up on that one. Yeah, that's what we thought we were seeing. That's not what happened. So now we've got to say, well, what possible rises can we potentially have? Well, I still think this is a pretty clear W. Rise 1 comes back and bursts through the 50 EMA. I kind of feel like that is a valid to me, pullback. But you could argue the same happened here with a pullback. It came back through. And we can't exactly have 4 rises right now. Look at the BTC price. Oh, yeah, she's moved. You're right. So, up again she goes. Jamie's ringing me. I've seen the BTC price, if that's what you were ringing me about, so appreciate that. Yeah, and look where it's running into, straight into a vector zone, 50% retracements around about the 50 level. We're just battling that 48k at the moment. So yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on there. Your levels could have been right. There was just a level rest at the 200 EMA, and now we're doing a new set of rises. Okay, yeah, okay. So I see what you're saying. It does happen, absolutely. Where you see, 1, 2, 3, there it is. We didn't really get the down market that we would expect, and so we almost had like another W formation, and now we're just going through the motions again. If that's the case, then we haven't been through the 50 EMA in a long time, which kind of suggests that this could be a very drawn out cycle. What we're going to do. And now Bitcoin has whipsawed back down. So we're seeing some exciting movement. I'm going to just cut back into this. Let's go on the 15. Someone, please tell me if someone on Twitter has used the word approved, dumped, delayed, or someone shot Gary Gensler. But yeah, market makers are having fun. I wanted to talk about vector candles a little bit later on, but we're having some vector candle recovery here. I was watching Traders Reality yesterday. I haven't been watching him in a while. Tell you what, the guy has passion. He really does. It really got me fired back up when he was talking about recovering vectors. But yeah, there's definitely some movement happening right now. So we shall have to wait and see where that goes. Going back onto the daily though. I will try and keep one eye on the charts there. So I'll be honest, Greg. I don't really know where we're sitting with this. How can I remove those? There we go. I need to try and probably have a look at it. I probably need to go down some lower time frames. If you struggle to find something on a higher time frame like daily, go back a time frame. Try and have a look there. So maybe I need to spend a bit more time. And down there, some people are saying it's approved. Really? Let's have a look. Breaking SEC approved spot Bitcoin ETFs. Here we go. Wow. We're going to have a bit of fun then, aren't we? And it happened, as someone just put there, happening on the Avenger call. As always, price moving around, but yeah, there we go. Does anyone know who or how many or all of them? But right, there we have. We've got the word we were looking for, approved. And what's happening with the price? We're actually falling at the moment, but don't, let's get a clean chart. If we're going to get excited about this, we're going to get excited properly, aren't we? Let's get on to lower time frame. Okay. There you go. Word approval. And we hit 48,000. And then we start to come back down. But actually, we've actually been picked up on the 200 already. Bounced off that one quite cleanly. It's come around. And I think what we're going to see is this just chopping around until people decide which way they want it to go. You've got to remember, the US markets are still open. So this is, they've only got 12 minutes to go, mind. It'll be interesting to see how the Asia markets take this when they open a little bit later on today. And that's where the real move's going to be. Now, if any of you want to stay up until sort of 1 in the morning UK time, maybe Jamie can keep us up to date with what's going to happen there. But yeah, there we go. We've got it. I'm almost a bit speechless as to what to say, really. Something we've been talking about for years. It's finally here. And then I find it amazing that the first thing that happens is a big green candle on the 15, followed by a big red candle on the 50. Sorry, on the 50. The following candle. So there we go. You can try and plan for everything you want to talk about, and then right at the end of it, I thought we're going to finish early today. It happens. I will just cut back to whichever one I was on. I just want to try and see. BTF's approved. Okay. According to Twitter, the SEC has approved it. That's fine. SEC, there we go. I just want to know. I assume it's everyone's. But there we go. And I suppose the real question now is, are we still looking at a Thursday for these? Cheers, Colt. Are we still looking at a Thursday for these to actually start, go live? That seemed to be the timescale that people were talking about. So I think that's the timescale we've got to do. The even better thing is I've got a free day tomorrow because I cleared my calendar so I could wait for tomorrow. And now I've been given the gift of a day off. But yeah, and for any of you that did have some pre-orders around about 48,000, I hope you got in. It's ever so slightly below. Great opportunity to sell. But I think we're going to see some whipsawing here. I do. Again, going down to the 5 minute. These are nosebleed charts for me. I never go down this low. But again, down to the 800. It's bounced back up to that here. But we're starting to build that one back down again. I wish I had things like the order books now. So we can kind of see how the order books were going. But there we go. At the moment, and we're only 15 minutes into this announcement, we're starting to see that potentially this will actually was a sell the news event. We've had that. Now people are taking advantage of all of those people. That, remember I told you, what was it? 47,000 Bitcoins worth of longs were placed at 47,100. All of those people, depending on what leverage they're using, these are going to be the sell liquidity for the market makers pushing this price back down. Now, again, I don't imagine it's going to stay down for too long. I think we're going to see that volatility, and I got to stress that. But an interesting time to be trading. So, trying to catch up with the chat. Rupin's put sold mine at 48, rebuys are at 45.9. There you go. And look at that. Tell you what, Rupert, I doff my proverbial hat to you. 48 down to 49. Fantastic. So, regardless of what happens, you've had a nice little, almost a 10% uplift there in the matter of 10 minutes. Not a bad day's work. All the orders have moved up to about 50k. Okay. 48 is cleared out. But were the 48? See, that's the good thing about looking at the order books is, and again, Trader's Reality is brilliant for this. I highly recommend, if you're someone that can understand someone speaking 200 miles an hour, he's brilliant because he goes through the order books live, and you can see trades that were, or orders that are there that then get retaken away before they actually get activated. And you can see those ghost orders, and they're used to kind of manipulate and draw the price in. And if we had that open, we could actually see, I think it's Bookmaps that does that kind of stuff. But there we are. I'll certainly be tuning into his at 10 o'clock today, because that guy is going to be, as he likes to call it, spitting fire, talking about all that stuff. But I think in the long run, perfect. I give some legitimacy to it. Let's face it, an asset class that at times we've been embarrassed to even tell our closest friends about. And so, yeah, here we go. We've been talking about it. Now we move on to the next thing. ETFs are approved. We'll let the markets play out for 24 hours, messing everybody around, thinking that it's all going to dump now, and then it will go long again, and then we'll have the vice versa. And then we just move on to what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on hardening, 4-year cycle, building our position, getting back in there. And that's how I'm looking at it. Obviously, I didn't even move my BTC to try and sell any at 48k. So unless we start to see that move back up and then it starts to tire out, and you can actually already see we've got that magenta color, is that it? Purpley, pinky color coming through now. So the red symbolizes plus 200% volume against the last 10 candles. This is only 150, so there is still negative, but it is slowing down. So depending on what this candle looks like, whether or not it's a stopping vector candle, anything like that, there's all these different things we can talk about. Jamie, I know, has been investing in crypto mining companies. He's saying dumping prices. Let's have a look. I mean, will they hold off? Will it be a case of how do they open tomorrow? I've got a few here. So on the 5 minute, nothing really happening there. Is the market closed? Is it open? I think it's still open. 35 minutes. A little bit of a rejection here, but actually MicroStrategy's not looked great. I know we're on the 5 minute, but it's not looked great for a while, actually, compared to some of the others. And maybe there's an argument to be said here. That's because people are now expecting ETFs to come on. So they take it, you know, they use MicroStrategy as a way of getting into Bitcoin. But now that there's a legitimate means for an ETF, maybe they're taking their funds out of MicroStrategy and they're going to move it into, you know, iShares or wherever it's going to be. But that certainly hasn't done so well. And the video's doing fine. Riot, Hive, Hut. I know Hut's a dirty word for Jamie, but okay, yeah, that's it. It kind of caught me off guard. Closed 25 minutes ago. Okay, sorry. My timings are obviously not accurate for those markets. Right, I'm going to go and just have a look at some altcoins now, because that's what I promised I was going to do. Look at this, we're at 45,000. Just about to go to altcoins. We're already down at 44. Jumping around, you know. Okay, here, this is what I'm going to suggest. We will mess around, and we're going to interact somewhere around 43,000. I think this trend line is everything we need to know at the moment. It has been this entire time. So this was on the hype and the thought of how well the ETFs are going to do for Bitcoin. Well, now seeing this down, you can actually see as well. Look, this is wicked into that area of liquidity that I put on there. That's pretty much 50% of that as well. So again, it seems to have been played perfectly by the market makers. I can't stress enough, understand market maker strategies. I really recommend it. Whether you use Trade Travel Chill, I think she's brilliant as well, or Traders Reality, both of them on YouTube. You can get all their content for free on there. Well worth understanding that, because once you understand market makers, you can really get a feel for how the markets are going. Right, I'm definitely going on to altcoins now, and we'll have a look at CAS first. So Casper. Okay, let's get off the 5-minute chart. So bullish and bearish. Right, well, straight away, we've been ranging. Let's take up the fib for now. Don't need that. So what we've sort of been finding is we've held the 10 and the 20. We lost it. We've come back, and we've basically just been flirting in and around the 50. Whether it's above, whether it's below, we've been in the cloud now for the best part of a month. But the problem is we haven't been able to maintain a higher, we haven't been able to get a higher high. So whilst we've been consolidating in a rectangle, you have to say, for me, that this is in a downtrend. So I would argue the next move is still down. And I'm still thinking, I know we had that wick there that, you know, cleared this level, but it didn't happen. It only happened on Qcoin, I think. It didn't happen on Mexi. And so I think the natural move is down to sort of that 7.5 level. That's personally where I see it going. From there, I think it can build support, because we've got the 200 that's coming up, and then, you know, we can take that one up. So that's my view on where I think Casper's going. I think that's both the bullish and the bearish scenario. What I would say is potentially we have a double bottom, and maybe that's what's going to happen. That's my bull, is that there's a potential double bottom there, and it's just a case of just waiting for this to consolidate through. But yeah, we shall wait and see on that one. Tau, I know a lot of you are looking at Tau. Sorry, that's on the Casper chart, but on the Qcoin chart, I don't use Mexi anymore. I think the FUD about it, whereas whether or not it's direct or not, just not for me. So I've decided I'm just going to use Qcoin. I can get things like Tau and Casper on there, absolutely fine. On this one, it's fairly new, but we can see it's in a downtrend. But if you look at it on the Mexi chart, still in that downtrend. We've broken the 50. We've Kobo'd back up to it, and we're potentially there. I think people have seen shoulder, head, shoulder, broken through, Kobo'd back up. I'm not getting any buys. I'm looking at this level here. That's where I'm looking. So I did say sub 200. The more I look at it, I'm thinking lower. What I will give you is that 200 EMA is climbing up like that. Maybe it intersects at like 170, and I might have to just start laddering in from down there. But that's what I'm looking for Tau. I'll look at Bitcoin dominance, because I said I would have a look at that. Bitcoin dominance, you know, we've seen. So we had a fairly decent alt run through Christmas. And, you know, a lot of us were talking on Discord. It was just nice to check your delta and actually see how well your portfolio was doing for once. But actually, since the turn of the year, Bitcoin has made a fairly stellar run up. And that's been bleeding out on the alts, and we've seen that. I've certainly felt it anyway. I think Ethereum BTC has certainly felt the brunt of it. Where's my BTC pen? Where's Ethereum BTC? It's continuing to fall. This one, it's just looking ugly. We've kind of lost this level. And, you know, for ETH BTC, I'm thinking this is the next level then. This has to be, doesn't it? 0.45 down to about 0.4. Vector candles down there. We're talking sort of, you know, that run up, the real blow off top in April 21. But it was such a run up that there's not much there. We're kind of looking at early into 2021 when we had that slight pullback. That's where we're going. Now, I've mentioned ETH actually might experience a better run beforehand. It's perfect timing. Nobody in the chat reminded me. Thanks for that, guys. But so yeah, not been doing that well recently. Just consolidating in this area. I hate that I keep doing that. Let's just get rid of these for now. I want to have an ordinary chart. But now that a BTF has been approved, an ETF has been approved, is the next logical step an Ethereum ETF? And if that's the case, is there now an opportunity where people are actually thinking ahead of time, I want to get into ETF, I want to get into Ethereum, sorry, because that's going to be the next play, is an Ethereum-based ETF. And so what we could actually see is that breakout. Now we know, well, previously ETH has always moved anyway, but maybe we get an extra oomph to the movement. Jamie's ringing me again. I'm going to take this. Let's see what he has to say for himself. Hey there, Jamie. Sorry?
It got SEC Twitter account got hacked.
Oh, did it? All right, perfect. Thanks for letting me know. All right, cheers. Well, there you go, a live update. Someone's saying that this has been hacked. Brilliant. Brilliant. You got to love that. I suppose. See, I fell for that because as excited as I got, I waited till we got to the SEC website and off we go. So that is, or is this a double bluff? And that's the hack. But excellent. Okay. Well, there we go. We will just have to calm down and wait for tomorrow. But I love it. I love it. I kind of feel like that should be how we end this call. Can I just say, you know, before we do, that is how much emotion is in the ETF then, isn't it? Because in the space of 25 minutes, we went up, and even before we knew, I don't know how long the hack came out, how long it took for the hack to come out, but maybe that's what drove it down, and that's why it turned around within 5 minutes. But yeah, you know, we got it hacked. We should be just back at 46,700, surely. It's back to where we are. We should be waiting for our news, but no, everyone's just like, okay, I've started selling, so I might as well continue. Okay, anyway. So I'm going to take what I was saying about the Ethereum ETF off the table because we don't have an approved BTC ETF at the moment, and that's where we sit. But the markets are still bleeding pretty hard from that. Fake news has definitely put some fear back in the markets. But here we go. All right, I think I'm going to end it there. I don't think anyone asked for any other TA on it, and to be honest with you, I don't think I can take any more excitement. It's been approved, it's been confirmed as a hack. Do we get the actual approval in the next 24 hours, or is that just something that Gary's now going to be spitting feathers about? He's going, no, I can't trust anything right now, I need more time, and I'm gonna delay it. We'll have to wait and see. No holiday for me tomorrow. I'm back in front of the computer all day waiting for Gary to give us the good news. But what can we trust these days? I need to actually physically watch Gary on a TV screen and tell us it's been approved. Of course, we're in the advent of video AI. Not even that is reliable. But guys, thanks, guys and girls. Thanks for tuning in to another eventful Avenger call. Just, you know, regardless of what's happened in the last 20 minutes, you know, just bear in mind the bullish to bearish scenarios. There's two scenarios there that could easily play out. And just bear that in mind. And as I said, full of emotion at the moment, this market is, and we can see that with how the price is currently reacting. So, yeah, one for the calendar, I think. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. If we get a genuine approval tomorrow, and I'm actually at the PC and I can spit some words out, I might try and go live and just see what happens. But other than that, guys, let's just keep an eye on the charts. Keep an eye on verifying whatever the news that comes out is. And other than that, I shall speak to you all soon. Cheers now.